Okay, so last episode before the Q&A or whatever, I have several people that have turned in, what is this, like school? Several people that have confirmed that they've watched all of these, and that they have turned in their questions or comments or answers or whatever to the questions. So if you have any other questions though, or any comments or whatever, go ahead and send them in ASAP after watching this video, because the next video that I post, which will be like on Tuesday before we meet again in the Clarksville campus, will be answering any questions and how to practice moving forward, how to practice leading worship. And so more than just practicing music stuff, but practicing worship at home, outside of on stage. So that little bit, and then answering all the questions and stuff. So this episode is how to lead. So we had how to listen, and now we have how to lead. So it's basically taking episode 5 and 6 and putting it together and making it super applicable. So if you've done the things like you're worshiping on your own and you're praising God on your own and you're fighting your battles on your own before you come to rehearsal on Wednesday, and you're actively listening outside of on stage, and you're practicing obedience outside of being on stage, then all together is how you're going to lead on stage, right? So open your eyes. That's the first tip that I have. Open your eyes. I definitely understand it feels better sometimes to have your eyes closed whenever you're worshiping and leading worship, and it feels like more serene, and you have like nobody's staring at you, like you're just yourself with God, and it's great, and you can still hear what's going on. So like if somebody else is doing something or whatever, you can still hear them. But here's my encouragement to you: just keep your eyes more often open than not, okay? So you can read the room. You can see what's really hitting people, what's maybe not as much. You can look at your people that are next to you, and if they're leading the song or if you're leading the song, and you can get kind of an understanding of how everybody else is feeling in the moment. You can see if Pastor Austin is walking up, or if somebody else takes the mic and has a word from God or something like that. You're aware of your surroundings whenever your eyes are open, right? But then also when it comes to in just singing and leading a song, the goal being that you're leading 4 other people, you can like connect with a person whenever you look them in the eyes. And so I know that kind of feels weird to like say like look people in the eye when you're leading worship, but I mean literally sometimes it hits people whenever the person who is leading the song like looks at them. They're like, oh, like they're like, that's for me. Like this song is for me. Like the worship is for me. And it is. And so it's not just them being like selfish or conceited or something. Like, no, it's for them. And so like God's trying to talk to them. God's trying to use you to talk to them. And so when you make eye contact with them, it hits them different, and it creates like kind of a bond. And it's like, oh, like they're doing this for me. They're not just, up there singing for themselves, trying to sound good. Like, no, they're trying to lead me into worship. I need to pay attention. Or oh my gosh, whenever I'm praying over like students or something like that, and like a group, like not just like one person, that'd be weird. But like if I'm praying over a group of people and I look at them, like I keep my eyes open while I'm praying and I'm looking, and all of a sudden I make eye contact with somebody that like doesn't have their head bowed, and so they like, I'm looking at them, I look them straight in the eyes, and I'm like, God, blah 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 blah, and I'm like looking at them, and they're just like, oh, like it hits them different. And so just go ahead, try it, keep your eyes open, read the room. Like I said, put the mic at your side and pray at any point. It does not have to be a certain point in a certain song or something for you to be able to pray over this entire, ministry, to pray over the church, to pray over a specific group of people, to pray over a specific person. You can pray whenever you want, pray on stage whenever you want. And so, yeah, just like put the mic down and start praying. That's something that I think will help you discern a lot more and help you stay a lot more sensitive, is just praying. Especially like if you know that like God has something for somebody, or God has something for you, or God has something for the ministry, and you don't know exactly what it is, then just start praying. If you pray in tongues, then pray in tongues. If you don't, then just pray with your words, your English words. So something that we are going to work on with in the future that I didn't do last week, but I'm doing it this week, is meeting with Jose and talking about music directing and stuff, and potentially us using like some hand signals. I don't want it to be too obvious though, and so I'm thinking more of a music director standpoint, or somebody who has a hand signal can do it to the music director, and therefore the music director can let everybody else know, that kind of deal, to make it less obvious. But our main stage worship, like on Sundays, they use hand signals, and they have a music director, which is just a person with a microphone that speaks just to the people with the ears. So it's another big reason to have ears, to have inner ears, like the headphones, is that you can hear the person in the talkback mic, which is a mic that doesn't go out into the speakers in the audience. It only stays in your headphones. So that person as a music director, I think it'd be really cool if we had that, and if we had hand signals so that we could lead a moment and it wouldn't have to rely so much on the track. If we want to go do something again, then everybody can be on the same page. All the vocalists can know what's going on, and it's not like a random. It doesn't feel random, and it doesn't feel unprepared. Which, speaking of preparedness, be so prepared, guys. Like, come in, and like I said, no more last minute changes. The key is the key unless you tell me over a week beforehand, right? And so practice, memorize. We have the words on the back screen now, which is like fine and whatever, but during rehearsal we don't. And so try and not have your phone in your hand. Try and like be completely memorized, like lyrically. If you have your phone, then just make it to where it's only just to remind you of something, and only hi it's okay. Try and be so prepared so that whenever you're in the moment and everything, you're not having to think about the words. You can only think about the spiritual movement that's happening, because the last thing you want is to be thinking about either the notes or thinking about the words and not being prepared to spiritually lead a moment, right? So keeping it simple. And Ruth Ann said this really funny thing that her mom says. She doesn't say keep it simple, stupid. In church, she says keep it simple, saints. So keep it simple, saints is KISS, right? There are a few things that will make life just a whole lot easier, and that will not throw people for a loop whenever you're leading worship. And so this is for people that are leading worship, and people that aren't leading worship should not be doing any of these things anyway. But people that are leading worship, this is a really big deal. And by leading worship, I mean like leading the song, like you're the main vocalist on the song. Dynamics is the first thing. Control and breathing is the same too. And flashiness. So dynamics. Dynamics is when you make your voice louder or softer, right? Louder, quieter. Dynamics are everything. So if you have a song that is just like, you sing it so gently and sweet and soft, and it like evokes emotion versus thank God, right? Different. And so like the dynamics are going to provoke the emotion, and they're going to change everything for you, right? So those things, think about those things and practice those things. Be so prepared. Only do what you practice. So if you're practicing the softness and the, whatever, or you're practicing the harder hitting, like more energetic stuff, only do what you practice. Don't throw in a bunch of random stuff last minute because you think it's going to sound good, because you don't know if it's going to sound good because you didn't practice it that way. Control and breathing. Control is basically having the breath support to control the note that you're singing, right? Not necessarily long notes, but just any note. You just need to be able to have control. So in order to do that, you have to have good breath control, right? So you have to have good breath, good breathing in general, have like fill in your lungs deeply, and then like being able to control your breath as it comes out. This is a very technical thing that takes practice, and sometimes even takes like mentorship to be able to know if you're breathing good, if you're breathing well, if you're breathing deep enough, etc. And so ask me if you want help with that. Most of the time, honestly, breathing is one of the hardest things that vocalists need to work on. Not even that it's hard, it's just something that they don't think about until they're taught about it. And so be able to be willing to learn how to breathe better, how to breathe deeper, how to have better breath control, because that's a huge part of singing. And frankly, it's a lot of people's thing that they have to work through to be able to become a better vocalist. And so if you need help with it, then let me know. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, then let me know, because you probably do need to work on it. And then the last thing is flashiness. So this is just in general. Don't practice being flashy, but definitely don't show up on Wednesday being flashy. We don't want a bunch of riffs and a bunch of, right? We don't want a bunch of, we don't need all that. We don't need all that, because that's not, in the end, it's probably not glorifying God. It's probably you sounding good, which is totally cool. God gave you a gift. God made you talented. God helped you hone in on your skill and craft your skill, and you're getting better and you're practicing and you're doing these cool things. Awesome. Those are, like, seriously, I'm not being sarcastic. Those are all very good things, and you should be a good steward of the talents and the gifts that he gave you. That's so cool. But flashiness and doing things to sound good and taking the glory off of God and just making it about you, and, you know, certain songs, it's so easy because sometimes the people that write these songs want to sound good. Crazy, right? And so they do all these things in the recording that maybe don't need to be there. And on top of that, you would have to practice them really, really well. And so if you're going to do it, practice it, as long as you, like, know deep down in your heart that it's for God and not for you. And that if anybody claps at that moment, it's not for you, it's for God. Like, those types of things, like, do it. But don't try to throw in a bunch of flashy stuff. Definitely don't throw it in without practicing it. Another issue that we run into is whenever control and flashiness kind of intermix, and you try to do something flashy, and then you don't have the breath to support it, and then you just sound bad. And then you're like, dang, like, I sounded bad. And it's like, well, if you hadn't tried to be flashy in the first place, you wouldn't have sounded bad. And that's, like, a very real thing. Like, I do it all the time, where I try and do something really cool, and then, like, it sounds bad because I didn't practice it, or I wasn't prepared for it, or I got nervous at the last second or whatever. And so, like, that's just a thing. Like, whenever you sing, this is just a thing. But let's try and avoid those moments when we're worshiping, because it's not about us in the first place. It's all about God. It's not about how you sound. It's about leading others into worship. So that's flashiness. That's how to lead. Dynamics, breath control, and all of that. So last thing in the, like, spirit of being prepared is to practice in general, just so much. Practice so much that you could do anything with what you have. So say you have, you know, a song, and it's verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus, and then song ends, right? That's, like, the standard song setup, right, that we have. But then say, like, after the bridge, God wants you to, like you just feel like it would be so cool if you did the bridge one more time, and then did the chorus, and then did the chorus, like, softer, and chorus again, and then build chorus again, and then bridge again. And, like, maybe, like, that happens all the time. We do that all the time. In, like, you know, Sundays or whatever. We used to do it in Wednesdays kind of a lot, honestly. So say that's, like, something you're supposed to do, but the musicians and the vocalists, like, are not prepared for something like that. So they're not listening. They're not really paying attention. You know, somebody has their eyes closed, so they don't even know what's going on. And, like, you know, you're trying to, like, communicate with them without making it obvious. Like, we're going to do that part again. Like, you know, like, you're not trying to make it obvious, but you really think that it should be like that. And then in the end, either you try and do it and nobody follows you, you try and do it and it sounds okay, but it could have been better if everybody was, like, you know, ready for it. Or you just don't do it because you're nervous that nobody else is going to start doing it. Those are all very viable options. But wouldn't it be real cool if everybody was so in tune with each other and so aware of their surroundings and so prepared to be able to do whatever it is that they don't need the track to be able to follow. They are just prepared to be able to follow in whatever way. And then we were able to do that because, like, somebody said, you know, do it again, or, you know, chorus or whatever, or bridge. Like, we just do it. And it sounds really cool. And everybody's like, oh, wow, that was so awesome. And, like, it's hype again, and, like, yay, Jesus, and whatever, you know, like, how cool would that be if we just did that? And so that's my advice my thoughts. Hey, let's do this. Let's, as a team, be so prepared for anything and so aware of our surroundings and so in tune with what God has for us that we do the cool things that God has for us, right? And we're not making it about us. We're not being flashy. We're maintaining good breath control, and we're prepared and we're aware. All of those things. So this week, if you have any questions about anything that I've said so far, then make that your question. Because next episode, like I said, is going to be the final chance to ask any questions, to make any comments. And then I will respond to all of them, all of the questions and comments you have. So any question of this entire series, send them in. But from this one, or do you have any questions on how we need to communicate with each other? Do you have pushback on the whole closing your eyes thing? Do you need help understanding what breath control means? I'll do a whole episode on breath control. That's like a huge deal. Do you like, as far as like riffs and like fancy stuff in the middle of songs and stuff, do you have questions on that? Like, what are you supposed to do? What are you not supposed to do? Like, how are you know what I mean? Any questions on any of that, let me know, and I will see you next week.